Welcome to Musings, Rants, and Guitars, February 21st, 2021, and we have a special guest, Greg Koch, and we can say he is an internet sensation and just a lovely, lovely person to listen to. You should follow him on Instagram and on YouTube and Twitter, and I think he even has a MySpace page. Not really. We did have some technical difficulties, so we're going to take you right into where Greg is telling us about some of the things that he's currently doing. So here we go. Welcome, Greg.
Their website, which has been a lot of fun. So really, I've been doing 5 live streams a week, and then I've been doing a bunch of stuff for a podcast, and I do a couple of interviews a week usually, and then I've been doing Skype lessons or whatever else. So I'm playing a lot of guitar. Probably I always played a lot of guitar anyway, but it seems like I'm playing more, and you know what? I don't get bored with it. I dig it.
Love that. You could tell absolutely that your energy is still completely invested in playing, you know, as is ours, but you come up with just the energy every time. It's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you.
Love it. So
I appreciate it. I was playing along with some Roy Buchanan the other day. There was this cool. I think it was. First time I saw this video, I think it was actually on MySpace. That's how long. That's how long ago. But someone had posted this interview with Roy Buchanan from I thought it was in '88, but now it says it's '82. Whatever. But he's sitting down in this room, and I think it was a guy from Guitar World magazine was interviewing him. And he's sitting there with the telly, and he does some stuff. And I remember years ago, I was like, I took everything in that video all those years ago, and I had forgotten just how much that stuff was embedded in my brain because they never loaded it to YouTube until like recently. Because I think the guy was holding out, thinking that he was going to sell, DVDs of this stuff, and didn't realize that like people don't really buy DVDs anymore, nor do they care about lesson footage that can't be immediately accessed, on whatever platform that they're on at the moment. So anyway, this guy finally posted this stuff to YouTube, and it's just called Telly Talk, and it's a kind of a messed up interview. It's not edited. But there's a couple different segments where he's just playing. He does some chordal stuff. He does some bends. He does some of his little quasi flamenco flailing. And it was so fun to see that after so many years that I sat down and then I started playing along with other Roy Buchanan stuff. And that's what I like to do. I love playing along with records. That's like the funnest part. Finding old things. And then now that I finally subscribe to iTunes so I can like listen to whatever, whenever, I'll just like, man, I haven't heard that record in a long time. And I'll put it on. Like I went through an old Robert Plant thing because I used to love those old Robbie Blunt guitar parts. And those
yeah.
And so I started sitting down and figuring out those tunes. Like, God, this is cool. And the next thing you know, you start figuring out some of that. And I'm like, well, what if I took this chord and that vibe and kind of did my own little thing with it over yonder here? So that's just kind of how I roll. There's never any end to the sussing and the redigesting, and then the caffeinating, and then the thrusting out. I don't know what any of that meant.
All right, start over. Internet sensation.
Well, what's bizarre about the whole thing is that I started doing those Wildwood videos about 10 years ago now. And prior to that, I had record deals. I was doing all this stuff for Fender and traveling over the place. I had different columns in guitar magazines, and I thought I was doing pretty good. And then I started doing these videos for Wildwood and just kind of playing whatever and playing really nice guitars and being, having fun with them and so on and so forth. The amount of people that have seen those videos everything else pales in comparison to what that did for my notoriety and whatnot else. And it's something that I never would have dreamed up. Someone would have said, listen, in a few years, they're going to fly out to Colorado for 4 days a month. You're going to play like guitar porn for 4 days, and you can play whatever you want and say whatever you want as long as it doesn't get too weird, and you'll make a great living. I'd be like, what? But that's what happened. So
Right.
Well, I appreciate that, but thank God people are buying the guitars so that this just kind of continues. So
They're, you're
I
you're
can't complain. It's
demoing
been fun.
you're demoing beautiful pieces, just beautiful guitars. I mean, they must be throwing stuff at you, going like, "Wow, look at this thing! Like this, you know, a '57 custom. Oh yeah, this is okay. I guess I could play this for a couple of minutes." And you just nail some beautiful stuff. It's great. So keep doing them if they let you.
Well, I do enjoy. I mean, obviously, I haven't been out to Colorado since March, but they send me a couple to 4 guitars a week, and then I'll play them on a live stream, and then they're doing these things called Wildwood 30. So I'll do like a 30-second noodle, and then at the end, he goes, "I just want you to say one word that comes to mind." Well, you can imagine I'm coming up with some interesting words at the end of these little noodles, and then they've been posting them to the various, portals of the inner Google, and people been digging them, and they've been buying the guitars, so it's all well and good. I am looking forward to going back out there again because they're like family. My buddy Steve, who owns Wildwood, and we've gotten to be tight over the years, and it's fun to always go out there once a month and hang out, and not to mention play all the great guitars and do what we do. But it's been odd for sure. But I am looking forward to getting back out there once the pestilence has passed.
Yeah, it's closing in on a year now.
Yes.
And they're saying, "Oh, what longer now?" But it depends on who you believe. It's just
Yeah.
just trying to stay positive and create what you can do in the downtime and take advantage of it. But it's hard if you're
Well, what's interesting is that fortunately, people have been very, like, our live streams go great. People are very generous, and we don't do like a separate subscription site where people have to go and like a gated thing. Yeah. We just go live, via Restream on YouTube and on Facebook, and we put a little thing at the top for tips, and people have been very generous. So when we do it, we make what would be a good club gig, if we were on the road. I mean, we'd be like, well, that was a good night, and then and then that drives people to the website to, I sell the hats, I sell shirts, I've got, all the different records and pedals and, Skype, whatever the case may be. So from that end of things, it's been great. And then they've also been buying gear. So like my signature reverends and all that kind of stuff. It's like people have been, because they're home and bored and they want something to do, they've been choosing to buy gear and spend it on music stuff. So as much as I feel so bad for so many people who have, had horrible situations. I mean, my wife is in the process of losing her job because of the Cove. So, I mean, there's all these different things going on out there that, because of the pestilence, are horrible. But thank God, as far as the music thing at this particular point in time, as far as what I do, it's it's continuing, and and from what people say, which is very gratifying, it's a healing balm for people to tune in, do the various different things, and to have fun with music during these times. So if that's my lot, I'm glad to do it.
Very cool.
So, Greg, growing up, what got you into the guitar, and who was the guy that you said, "This is what I want to do"?
It was Hendrix.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I room with my older brother. My brother's 14 years older than I am, and then there were 5 girls in between. So I had to room with my brother, which I'm sure he wasn't thrilled about. But I was exposed to all of his records. So, I mean, but I was born in '66. So, if I was into the music of most of the people that are my same age, I probably would have been more of a metal guy. You know what I mean, or whatever the case would be. But I was more into, like, early on. I remember I did a report on Jimi Hendrix when I was in 3rd grade, and there was just something about that music and him in particular. I was just like, this guy's a god. It's like he did the impossible. And then by the same token, I was really into Cream era Clapton. I think, man, the big thing, when you're running around the house with your buddies and you go up to your bedroom and your brother is sitting there in front of the stereo listening to Cream, and you're like, what are you listening to? And he's like, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton, the 3 greatest musicians of their kind in the world, collectively known as Cream. I'm like, holy shit! You know what I mean? So there was this air of reverence about, that era of music, but particularly the guitar player. The guitar player was cooler than any sports figure, movie star. You know what I mean? It's like, it was they were on another level to me. I mean, in my eyes. So to be a guitar player and to be able to improvise and to be able to be, the guitar player in a power trio in particular was like, it was being a superhero. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a cape, maybe a dragon suit. But that didn't pan out. But I do what I can. I got a hat.
You can still wear a cape, man. We have no problem.
I'm trying to bring the capes back. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get like a little thing going. I'll let you know how that turns out.
Well,
good.
We will await the appearance on Facebook for that.
Yeah. Like, are you going to do like Super Greg or what? Any idea?
Maybe. We'll see. Maybe okay. Captain Jammy Pants. I've been doing the Jammy Pants videos.
Yeah, right. You did say you got the Jammy Pants, so that's a good one. I like that.
A flannel cape. I can pull it off, fellas.
You are in Wisconsin. You might need a warm cape.
It does get a little cold around here, although I'm not going to complain. We're used to winter. All these other
I know
around the country, they're not used to it, so bad stuff's happening. We just kind of go, yeah, it sucks, but at least we got the infrastructure to kind of deal with it. But
right. we got spoiled last year. We had nothing, and we are just getting like.
Again, tomorrow we're getting some.
We are getting raped by Father Winter or whatever. I don't know what it is, but we're just getting.
We've got a shit ton of snow. I mean, we got a lot.
Yeah, we have a shit ton of snow.
Yeah, but you Wisconsin guys, you always get everything. To me, it reminds me of like something out of Fargo, from the movie Fargo. You guys got to always be in snow, right?
Well, it's interesting because in the Milwaukee area here, because we're close to the lake, but we're on the east side of the lake. So if we're on the west side of the lake, we get more lake effect snow, although we still get some of it depending on when the wind's blowing, but or where the wind's blowing. But we're kind of like my wife's from Minneapolis, and I got a lot of family up there. We gig up there a bunch, and Minneapolis just a little farther north and farther west. And man, I'll tell you what, their winter is always worse. It's just colder and more snow. Although interestingly enough, we have more snow here this year than they do. But the lake kind of protects us from Fargoian, shall we say, pestilence.
And I was in Minneapolis one year. It was 20 below, and I guess you can't really feel 20 below. It's just cold.
It depends. If it's cold and then it's windy with that wind chill, the wind chill is what gets you.
Yeah.
It's the worst. And then your nose hairs start to freeze up. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. You inhale and everything freezes on you. It's
not good.
Terrible. Yeah, no.
Definitely. Not good. Not for the fate of art.
So Greg, tell me, you have the Reverend guitar, right?
I do.
Yeah, you have
great company.
Yeah. I got rid of my last Reverend. I had one of the early American made ones. Tell me a little bit about yours.
Well, it was an interesting thing. I mean, I got to know Ken from Reverend from doing Wildwood videos, right? Mm-hmm. So he would come out once a year, usually with one of his signature artists, whether it was, Gil Paris or Bob Balch or who else did he come out with? I'm spacing it. Anyway, so we'd bring these fellas out and we'd do these videos together. And Ken and I just started to hit it off, and, we were just kind of buddies. I was still doing a lot of Fender stuff in my early years of Wildwood. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really looking for another guitar or another amp or any of that other kind of stuff. I was just, I just kind of was doing the Fender thing. So, but as years went by, I wasn't doing as much stuff with Fender. And then I started messing around with the Fishman pickup situation, which was kind of completely out of the blue. My buddy Richie Fliegler, who used to be the head of marketing for Fender for years, wasn't with Fender and was kind of doing his own independent marketing thing. And he was buddies with Larry Fishman. And I'd met Larry a couple times over the years and knew he was a cool dude and knew the company had a stellar, reputation as far as how they did business and their stuff. So they called me up. He called me up and said, hey, I'm working with them on these pickups. And to be honest with you, at first I was like, I don't really give a shit about pickups, if we're honest. You know what I mean? If I get a guitar and it sounds good, we're done, Yeah. But he started describing what the pickups did, and then I realized that it's actually what I wanted. Fender years ago was talking, when Bill Lawrence was still doing stuff with Fender, he was talking to me about doing a pickup, and with who's the old A&R guy that passed away? Anyway, I'm spacing out. We were going to do a signature pickup, and they said, well, what do you want? I said, well, I want something that looks like a regular single coil, sounds like a single coil. Not kind of sounds like a single coil, like really sounds good, looks like a regular single coil, and is hum canceling. Because usually every time there's something's hum canceling, it doesn't sound as good, and it looks like it's got fangs and like horns and shit. It doesn't look normal. And then I said I want some kind of little incremental boost, some kind of little thing like a flick or something, just to get a little on top of it. Anyways, one thing led to another. Bill Lawrence stopped his affiliation with Fender, and Dan Smith. That was his. Dan Smith went on, and it never ended up happening. So when I started talking to Richie Fliegler about these Fluence pickups with Fishman, it turned out that was I was describing. They were describing to me exactly what I had wanted from this signature pickup years ago with Fender. So lo and behold, I went out and started messing with them on these pickups, and we developed what was these Fluence pickups. And when I decided to work with them, they're like, well, we're going to do your own signature model of pickups. And so that was part of the deal. And so I wanted pickups that, like here's the first Reverend device with.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So this has, as you can see, it looks like a regular, Telly neck pickup.
Yep.
Doesn't have fangs. It doesn't have horns. A regular Telly bridge pickup, but it comes with this control panel over here. So when you get the pickups, they have everything in them, and then it has this little button here that you can, if I press in, I get a second voice that's got a little more heat, a little more meat. So when we did the pickups, we were like, freaking awesome. Now I got these pickups and once we voiced the pickups, it's like we had the ability to shuttle guitar. So we were able to kind of, with 2/4 inch ends, we were pop out the regular pickups, pop in the Fishman pickups, and then we were able to voice them in real time. They had software. They could, it's not modeling. I mean, there's actually windings and there's magnets, but the windings are actually really thin aerospace circuit boards that there's a coil printed on. So they stack those up, and those are what's surrounding the magnets. But that coil in and of it by itself is kind of anemic sounding, so you need a preamp. So with the preamp, you can make it sound any way that you want. So that's why we were able to dial in the sound. So by the time we were done dialing in the sound, I actually preferred the sound of the Fluence pickup over the pickup that we were targeting as an example. You know what I'm saying? And then we got rid of the noise. And so whatever devilry we had to do to get rid of the noise, and there were some things that we were doing. I'm like, no, that's not it. It's doing that weird compression thing that happens when you stack shit. I don't like it. So we figured out a way to get rid of the noise without getting rid of the tone. And that's why my pickups come with this control panel, because everything's in there. And then they are powered, so I always like looking at this. Kind of looks like a cat's butthole. Unfortunately, I'm too familiar with that site because I got cats, and they always like to show you that thing. But it's got a little mini USB input. There's a lithium-ion battery in here that you charge up with your phone charger. So an hour and a half charge, you get 300 hours. So it's not really a thing. At first, I was like, I don't want a battery in my freaking guitar. I hate that shit. But when they told me what it all did and the trade-offs, I'm like, okay, I mean, I charge up my phone a couple times a day. I guess if I have to charge my guitar, once every 300 hours, I just spit on my microphone.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the fact we get these pickups out, and I still have kind of a relationship with Fender. So I go over there one time. That's what Wisconsin is, by the way. I went over there one time, but I had this custom shop, 55 Wildwood, Fender custom shop telly that I had the pickups in. The thing sounds like the word of God. And so I was over at Nashville NAMM, and a bunch of my Fender buddies were across the way. So I was like, enough of this shit. I'm taking that guitar over there. I'm making them hear it. So I plug it in. I start playing it. They play it. They're like, man, these things sound great. I'm like, yes. why don't we do something together? It stands to reason we got this long-standing reputation, or affiliation.
Right.
Let's do something. And they're like, well, we have our own pickups. I'm like, I know what you got. Okay, I've been around the block. Your stuff is great, but this is like a beast of a whole different nature. Plus, it's not like you don't have a long-standing reputation and affiliation with Fishman. I mean, even on those Acoustasonic guitars, that's all Fishman shit on there. So, but they were not interested. Not interested at all. They didn't want to do a damn thing. And then I was going to do a thing where I was like, well, let's just do something with Wildwood, where we'll do custom shop guitars and we'll order them with the Fishman pickups in it. Mm-hmm. And couldn't happen for whatever reason. Couldn't happen, folks. I'm not going to get into why it couldn't happen. It just didn't happen. So next thing you know, my buddy Ken from Reverend says, hey, just to let you know, no pressure, but me and Joe Naylor were talking, and if you ever wanted to do something, as far as a guitar or whatever, we'd love to talk to you. And so I was like, no, okay. So then one thing led to another, and I got I was talking to Ken about playing one of the Reverend parties in Nashville, because Reverend always has fun parties at NAMM shows. And who doesn't want to who doesn't want to play at a fun party at NAMM? I mean, it's good times. So he's like, we should definitely have your new organ trio play at our party. Well, what guitar would you play? I said, give me one of those Pete Anderson guitars. Would you mind if we put my Fishman pickups in that son of a bitch? And they're like, no problem. So next thing you know, Fishman sends Reverend the pickups. They put them in a Pete Anderson guitar. They love it. They're like, this thing sounds wicked. And then I got a hold of it. I'm like, oh my God, this thing sounds killer. And I was doing gigs with it. And one thing led to another. And then Ken asked me, he said, hey, you know how we do those videos when I go out to Wildwood? Could I actually fly you to Toledo and do some, we'll call it the Ken and Greg show, and we'll play some Reverend guitars, you'll play them, and we'll shoot the shit? I'm like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Right. So while we were out there having a good old time, I said, hey, what do you think about maybe taking that Pete Anderson model, maybe doing a different neck profile, do some cool colors, and we pop my pickups in it, and we call it a signature model. Would you be up for that? He said, well, we can do whatever you want. And so for years, I've always wanted a slightly larger bodied Telecaster type guitar, because I'm 6'7", and I'm sick and tired of wise ass motherfuckers on the internet saying, is that a ukulele? Is that a 3/4 size instrument? I'm like, no, dumb shit. I'm just a Sasquatch. Okay? Don't judge me because I ate my Wheaties and drank my damn milk as a child. So anyway, I wanted an instrument that actually was proportionate. So Joe Naylor mocked something up that was like between 2 and 3% larger on all sides. Mm-hmm. And then he saw me playing this Telebird guitar that I had with this raised middle section. He's like, what if we did a raised middle section? I thought, man, that would be wicked. So we did that. We did a compound radius, so it's 10 to 14, I think, 61 to 5 frets, locking tuners, roasted maple, yada, yada, yada. And initially I wanted this a metal surround here. So because it kind of looked like a Firebird type of thing. Yeah. But the problem is that because of the way that the Fishman pickups are made, for some reason, the metal that they used that initially was put on the prototype, it was screwing with the impedance of the pickup, and it didn't sound right. So I called him, I was like, listen, I love the guitar, it sounds great, but something weird with that neck pickup. And so Joe Naylor started messing with different things and put a plastic one on there and said, I totally hear what you're talking about. There must be something with that metal. We could wait like months and figure out what metal won't mess with this thing, or we could just go with the plastic. And so I said, let's go with the plastic. It looks cool anyway. So, yeah. And there are some people that go, I hate that plastic thing around the pickup. And I usually get out. I don't seldom respond to troll kind, but this one's just a fun one. I go, well, I'll tell you what. When you get your signature guitar, you don't have to have one. Exactly. So this is the new color for 2021 is the 3-tone summers. We did initially like it's kind of a sonic blue. We call it Blucifer.
Yes. Yep.
We did like a powder yellow. We call Pow yellow, and then there's a Fiesta red. We call Wow red. Yep. And then Wildwood did a version with a really thick neck on it that was based off a neck on one of my custom shop guitars from back in the day. Uh-huh. And so Wildwood did a special run of black ones with the bigger neck profile. And then we did orange ones to be in the orange room. Right. And we called that Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
So we have that available on both the roasted maple and then the Pharaoh fingerboard as well.
Wow.
But new for this year, folks, we got this new son of a gun. So
Oh.
with Fishman on Gristle Tone P90s. So these are P90s that sound like the Word of God, and they are hum canceling. They also have a second voice, and I wanted this out of phase thing, and by God, they delivered. So I wanted, that when you're in that Peter Green wiring, and you just back off on one of the pickups just a hair, how it's fatter, like in a second, and it gets, but it still has the quack. It's got the fat, but it's got the quack. I don't know what this is.
Fatty quack, right? Fatty quack, yeah.
So inside this thing
is that binding around that neck? Did you bind that?
Yeah, there's
neck?
binding, so it's a set neck.
Oh, it's a set neck.
Oh, I can't stand up. If I stand up, I'll get
binding.
really embarrassed. That's hot.
And so this one is Tosa Turquoise.
Yeah.
I live in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. So we got Tosa Turquoise. There's going to be a gold one, like a gold top, and then a black one. And then I wanted the Bigsby. Other people are like, can we get one without a Bigsby? I'm like, God damn it.
It's coming with a Bigsby. They'll be bitching because there's not a Floyd Rose, right?
Well, Reverend Bigsby's actually work. I mean, you can actually get them to stay in tune. And Reeves Gabrels, for years, has been using a special spring in his that now comes with all of the Reverend Bigsby's, which you can do the warbles and all that kind of fun stuff.
I saw you doing that the other day.
Yes.
With the Bigsby. And I'm like, how are you doing that? And why does that stay in tune? It was...
Because of the people at Reverend.
That it was you were doing that Floyd Rose like almost snap that boing with it.
Exactly.
I don't know, where's mine? I can make that noise here somewhere.
Warble.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I know Vi does that a lot, right?
Right, that whole.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
You were doing it with the
Bigsby, huh? Wow.
I
really have to go back to Reverend again, man. Like my last Reverend was one of the older the Slingshot Customs, with the with the kitchen table top,
I would definitely go for that. I would finally have a telly because I don't have a telly.
Yeah,
I do like me some tellies.
Yeah.
Are they? Is your signatures? Are they now available, or are they going to be in the coming year?
Well, the new one with the P90s, they're going to be in stores in late March, and it's kind of a weird thing because of COVID. I like to say release dates are really more of a suggestion. So the guitar and the pickups were supposed to be out last, for Summer NAMM. In a perfect world, that would have happened, but everything got pushed back. So there's been some supply chain issues as far as getting pieces for this, that, and the next thing. Not so much with the guitars, but I think on the pickup frontier. So they had enough for the first run of the guitars. So in March, most of the first run Wildwood Guitars is going to have, and then there's going to be like 2 months where they're not going to be available, and then they're going to be available in quantity again. So as I've been telling people, if you want one of the first ones, I suggest you call up Wildwood and say, hey, bros, I need one of those fancy guitars, because it's going to be about a 2-month drought, and then they're going to be back. So crazy.
But you're giving one of us, right? You're like,
of course.
Okay, that's what I thought so.
I am a thousandaire, by the way. I like to say.
That's one more than me.
Man.
I can buy you all a Fresca right now.
Frescas for everybody.
That's right. Ice cold.
Fresca.
Living life.
Man.
Okay, so we covered your guitar and your pickups. What kind of, you have your own amp, signature amp also?
I do, and that was kind of a weird story. So years ago, I always knew about Koch amplifiers, and I knew that they existed. I knew that they were cool. I was in Europe touring around someplace, and I was at some music school in frickin' Italy somewhere. Italy's the greatest place in the world, by the way. The food? What? Anyway, so I was hanging out at this music school, and the amp that they had to play was a Koch amplifier. I've heard about these guys, and it's supposed to be cool. So I plugged into it, and what I really liked is that they're 2-channel amps, like the Twin Tone 3, I think is what I plugged into at this place. And so it's a clean sound, but there's a gain and a volume. So you can get this clean sound that's pretty spongy. So the top end doesn't get real razor blades and hand grenades, and the low end doesn't fart out. So you get this nice kind of compressed, clean sound that's very, very usable. And then you have two volumes. You've got a rhythm volume and a lead volume for each channel. So you can set clean and then a little bit more clean, right? And then the lead channel, you can do lead crunch sound, a little bit more on top of it, but then they always have like a gain boost on their lead sound. So you can get, and the guy's format that he likes to use is always EL34. So the amp has kind of a cool, not always, but most of the time it's EL34. So it has kind of this, it does the Fender thing, but in a different way, and then it gets a nice kind of Marshall-y crunch as well. And the reverb was killer. So I knew about this in the back of my head. So years later, I'm at Music Messa, and for the first time, I'm not there for Fender because I'd gone there for Fender for just a shit ton of time. So now I'm over there and I'm doing stuff for Fishman. I'm in the Fishman booth. The new pickups are out. Kind of doing little things where I'm noodling, every hour or so. And the Koch amplifier people are right across the way. And Dolph Koch and his wife come over and they said, hey, we're big fans. We got your CDs. And I was like, oh, I'm a big fan of yours. I mean, I was playing with your amps. I really dug it. And they said, wouldn't it be funny if we worked together? I'm like, yeah, it would. So I went over and I kind of posed in front of the stack of Koch amps. Yeah. And I posted the picture and it destroyed the internet. He's got his own amps. I'm like, no, yes. So we started talking about maybe working together. So I got one of those Twin Tone 3 amps and I dug it. I dug the way it functioned, and I wasn't using any pedals with it. I was just using the foot switch for the amp. I was like, you got clean, a little bit more clean, you got lead, you got a little bit more lead, you got more lead on top of that. We're donezo. So we started talking about maybe doing a signature amp. So I said, look, I like the basic premise of how your amps function. I dig it. I would just like a little bit more of a vivid reverb, maybe like a 3-control reverb. You can really dial in, copious amounts of reverb if you want. I said, I would love to have harmonic vibrato because I love that univibe-ish vibrato on those old Brown era amps.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I said, I want something to just grunge up the clean channel a little bit if I should so desire. And so the guy recommended, look, we have this OTS circuit, output tube saturation. You take a half-watt power amp tube, you overdrive it, and you can add it to either channel. I said, that sounds wicked. And then I wanted 210s because I love Vibroluxes. I like just the tightness of 210s in a combo. And then I said, I want it like Sonic Blue if we could. And so when they delivered the first prototype, I'm like, we're done here. This thing sounds great. We did a little tweak to the voicing of the harmonic vibrato and with the gain staging a bit. But it's, it's the greatest combo amp of all time. For me. I mean, for what it does. I mean, because the clean sound, as I said, it's killer. Sometimes you plug into an old Fender amp and you get it to be that clean, glorious sound. And then you put the bright switch on, you're like, God, that sounds so good. But as soon as you turn it up past a certain point, it's like, you can't have the bright switch on. I mean, if you're gigging, it's like a blizzard of nails. You know what I'm saying? But it sounds so good when you're sitting next to it. But, it's just, and then you get the right pedal gain for it. And I mean, I've used super reverbs and Bassmans and Vibroluxes for my whole life. So I get the attraction and I love them and I still have most of them. But in a perfect world, if I had an amp where I plug into it and I have the great clean sound, a slight boost on top of that, a lead sound where I have multiple levels of gain structures, the most glorious reverb and that harmonic vibrato, literally I don't use any other pedals 99% of the time. And it's 50 or 25 watts. I keep it in the 50 watt mode all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So this is the only amp I've been using for, I think 4 years now that I've been using it. They've been having a hard time keeping up with demand and just making enough of them. And they're not cheap. I mean, in comparison to a lot of boutique things, it's really not that expensive. But when an amp is, $2,600, that's a lot of simoleons for someone. And most people, they'll have 30 damn guitars and they'll have one amp. You know what I mean? So
I can't spend that on an amp.
Right.
Meanwhile, I get this $5,000 custom shop.
Exactly. You'll have no problem dropping that kind of coin on.
Right, but But he's got his line 6 sitting in the back there going, it works.
Exactly. I told the guy, I go, listen, the people from Koch amps, I'm like, look, I'm glad when you're selling a lot of amps and people can get them, but just as long as I have them.
Yeah, right.
Because for me, it's the ultimate. I mean, it sounds great. So we like this little tweed one back here is one that's coming out this year, and that is a version that is it's one EL34, although you can swap it out for a 6L6. It's either 12 or 4 watts. It's got gain, volume, one tone control, and a reverb. And it's a single 12, and the cabinet's a little bigger because a lot of times, I love like old Pro Junior amps, Fender Pro Junior. I've recorded a ton of shit on that little amp.
Yeah.
So they're a great little amp, but a lot of times when you turn it up, it can sound a little boxy. So I like the idea of turning up a little amp, but I also want a cabinet and a speaker that it's not going to sound boxy. So this doesn't, and this will be a far less expensive amp. This one's going to be like around $1,000-ish or a little under. So this is called the Little Gristle.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and there's also going to be another version called the Greg Jr., which will be basically the channel options from the other amp, how it's voiced with reverb, but it won't have the harmonic vibrato and the OTS thing on it. And it'll be a single 12-inch combo, and that one will be about $1,500. So, something for people that don't want to, throw down the major simoleage for the other one.
Right. That's
so many activities, fellas.
So those are the amps that you use during your
live streams. Yes.
Live streams daily. I've got to use my Ditto Looper morning routine.
Correct. Now, if I'm doing the looper duper, usually I'll use a gain pedal in front of it. And for years, I've had my buddy Tim Yarnick years ago for me made a thing we call the Gristle King. Clean boost, spoidle, overdrive, spoidle. It's a magnificent device. So we've had them for years. This is the 3rd iteration. And, T-Rex made them for a while for us, but that deal didn't quite pan out because they stopped paying us. It's weird how that can sour a relationship.
And they went away.
They did, didn't they? The T-Rex is not around anymore.
They did, man. They made. I was reading an article. I've been cleaning the studio here, and I fire hazard of Guitar Player magazines. And by the way, like you were saying, I have one from 22 years ago. The Uberschall, when it came out first, was $1,900. Now think about that. So anyway, they had one of the great Joey. What is the thing that you use? The Kotzen thing. They had one of those. Tiny multi-effect, flat things. It was beautiful and got really well rated, but then T-Rex went away.
They did. I mean, our relationship with them kind of went by the wayside, but then they got a new person to run the place, and I was friendly with Michael Picard from there. We were buddies. We were Viking brethren. I do have some Danish blood in me, so there's that. And they were. I think the last thing I got from them was that little tape echo that they came up with.
Yeah. It had a little cassette right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I had that, and then next thing I know, they were no more. But anyway, so the overdrive. Usually, I'll put a little overdrive in front of the looper so that I don't distort the signal with the amp gain. But other than that, when people watch my live streams with the band, or when I'm doing my stuff during the week, I'm going through my Koch amp. I got an SM57 in front of it, and then a little M Audio condenser mic I got years ago, and that's kind of draped down the front of it. That's actually in the middle of the baffle, but between those two mics together, it sounds pretty damn good.
Does sound good, and for the rest of the internet who judges everything for the way things sound on their phone sitting there, it sounds good.
Right. Yes. I love it when people judge your entire career on one 30-second thing they might see
on their phone.
You maybe and you might have just done off the cuff or whatever. I don't get that guy.
Yeah.
It sounds, I'm listening to this on my Samsung and it sounds thin.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. What are you going to do? People, they like to judge.
Thank you.
We don't judge ever, do we, fellas?
No.
It's not the point of this show.
No. How do you get it a lot? I mean, we all get them, but you get a lot more than we get. Trolls. How do you deal with those guys? Like,
Well, you know what?
I happen to have caught you one time. You came back with a tune the next morning after somebody trolled you, and I was fucking hysterically laughing. I could not stop.
As if we don't anyway, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that one was a particular. I mean, if they're funny, I'll respond. You know, at least
Right.
they have a sense of humor. Like that guy, it was. I had posted, or Wildwood posted some video on Instagram of me playing, and I was doing one of my Merle Travisy type of things. And some guy said, "Not this ragtime wanker again."
Yes.
I just
That's
thought
the
that
one.
was so
Yep.
freaking funny. It's like,
Yep.
ragtime? What?
Yeah.
So I came up with a tune called Ragtime Wanker, and basically
that was
talking about while you're in your
amazing.
people trolling, you know, as you're in your basement trolling people online, I'm with your wife upstairs. Is that what it is? But
That was
whatever.
great.
But most of the time, I have to say, I have been extraordinarily fortunate because the vast majority of people that comment on my stuff are nice, gracious, fun. You know, let's be honest. There's not a lot of pageantry in what I'm doing. It's not like I'm, you know, lording over you going, worship me. It's just like,
Right.
Are we having fun or what's happening? You know, so I
Yeah.
think for the most part that disarms the would-be trollist. So I've been pretty fortunate in that regard. I cannot complain, although sometimes I do.
Well, you know, it's we're making music. How can we stand above it? We're just trying to bring joy to people.
Well, that's the thing.
That's the whole thing. I'm sorry you don't like my tone control.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Well, every now and again you'll get somebody like, does everything have to be a joke? And I just like, this is what keeps me from being a serial killer. So, yes,
Yeah.
there needs to be humor, or else there will be violence, and we don't want that.
It will be violence. Yeah, I agree. You know, if we're not laughing, holy crap! And I don't know. There's
Although
nothing.
we have been, although this, even though I don't consider this controversial or political at all. I think it's just common sense. But we've been doing live streams with the band, and Toby comes down from Minneapolis. He does not live with us. Obviously, my son lives here during this COVID festival. But Toby comes down, and he lives with his elderly mom, and he's got kids that are going to school.
Yeah.
You know, so when he comes here, we wear masks because we don't want to infect him, nor do we want to get infected. And we got these motherfuckers online and my favorite thing is, you're so much better than that. How could you be suckered in? Or my favorite is, why the masks? I'm like, because there's a fucking pandemic going on. And this guy's coming down from another household, or better yet, maybe my breath smells like a rabid creature from the gates of Mordor, and I want to protect these fellas from smelling some kind of acrid vapor. It's none of your fucking business. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear one. But when we're doing our thing, we probably have a good reason for doing it. My favorite one was today. Some guy said, "Oh, I bet you take those masks off as soon as the camera's off." Oh, yeah, I really give a shit about virtue signaling to you simian Cro-Magnons. I don't think so. This is the rant part. Am I right?
Yes, let's go.
Absolutely. This
Look,
is what we're supposed to be doing. This is perfect.
But the only reason I don't like wearing a mask is because my breath smells like a dead possum.
Well, I just told my wife, I go, you're wrong, because my breath smells like persimmon and jasmine. I don't know what you're talking about. She says it smells like ass. I don't get it.
Specifically, she actually probably, like, as much as mine, what the fuck did you eat?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My favorite is when I wake up in the middle of the night, she's constructed a wall with pillows, ancillary pillows. I'm like, oh, shit. Apparently, Mr. Butt Breath is in town tonight.
Oh,
But yeah, that's the only thing that really. And then and then just like, you know, like they're in on some little secret that we're not hip to. I'm like, you know what? I just don't really think it's that hard, you know, to just kind of figure out what's going on here. And just listen to the music, for God's sake. Who gives a shit? But I don't know. What are you going to do, fellas? Kids.
Kids.
Yeah.
That Twitch. That whole...
That Twitch! That was a song called Twitch. I don't know if you guys felt it.
I felt it.
I felt good about the rant part. It was so good to get that off.
Right? That's why we're here.
That is why we're here.
Yep.
And now they're asking us to wear double masks.
Yeah, I got the mandate.
You know.
Anyway,
You got that?
yeah.
You get the double mask?
I don't think I have to wear them in the same place though. I can wear them 2 different places.
Oh, so one on your face, one on your ass?
I would
Oh!
think. Hey, what's the difference?
The rectal sheath. A good name for a band, actually.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, rectal sheath. Tonight.
I think that's a Sweden metal band, isn't it?
It should be.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Oh, man.
those Norwegian death metal guys. I love
Yeah,
them.
we have a couple of people online wanting to say hello. We have Elaine, who's been on like every week with us. Craig was on. He was also on with, it seems like he's a Wisconsin guy because he was on with Jared. So,
Aha!
Craig is on. I don't want to misspell his name. If I was Spanish, I would say Baronja.
Oh.
But it's got a J at the J-A at the end, so it may be Baronja, depending on how we go. And
Well, greetings to all of them.
yeah, and then Frank Tassielli, who pops on all the time.
Frank.
Tommy knows who he is. And there's a Tom T and somebody else. Oh, Roger popped on too to say hi, and he was laughing about the Ragtime Wanker. He really enjoyed that one. So.
Ragtime wanker.
Yeah.
Ragtime
I think
wanker.
he popped off and went right to Instagram to see if he could find that. So
Oh, it's on there.
yeah,
It's on there, by God.
that's awesome. So
So, Greg, I want to ask you about your playing technique. How did it start, and what is gristle picking?
Here we go.
Well, the whole gristle thing comes from, there's not really a particular thing of gristle picking, but the whole gristle thing comes from years ago. I had a house gig at this one club in town on Thursday nights, and then after, you know, that was back in the day where I was playing locally, you know, 5-6 nights a week, doing whatever. And I was young, so I was raising hell. And so afterwards, we'd go out and get a little late night cuisine at this establishment on the east side of Milwaukee. And next thing you know, we're engaged in some kind of spirited food fight in this establishment, slinging things of this, that, and the next. Not that I'm suggesting wasting food, ladies and gentlemen, but all of a sudden, someone was heard saying, "Pound the gristle." And there was gristle being flung, and next thing you know, there was a big piece of gristle hanging from the Oriental Theater's sign as we left the place somehow. And then next thing you know, the term "pound the gristle" kept on being used, like if we're taking the stage, let's go pound the gristle. Or you could use it for any variety of activities, as you might imagine. And so then it just became a thing of describing, like, I need a little bit more gristle on that, or this, that, and the next thing. So it just became a thing. And so that's how Gristle Tone and Gristle this and Gristle Man and all that kind of malarkey came to being. But as far as the technique is concerned, you know, I started off, you know, it's this Clapton, you know, Hendrix, creamier Clapton, Hendrix thing, and then early Jeff Beck, certainly Allman Brothers, Zeppelin, big time.
Yeah.
And so, but right away, I was always I would read up on these individuals, and I would see, you know, the same names, you know, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, Buddy Guy, yada, yada, yada. So I did kind of the deep dive on the blues thing around the same time. But also around the same time, Dire Straits was out, and I was hearing that bucka, bucka, bucka.
Mark Knopfler doing his
Mark Knopfler, I was hearing that clean strat sound with the fingers, and I totally, like, was in and wanted that in my world immediately. And then around the same time, I heard Albert Lee. So I heard Albert Lee playing with Clapton. And then, you know, the Dixie Dregs were around the same time. So that's kind of how I And then I started doing the back dive on that shit. No, who's James Burton? Who's Jimmy Bryant? Who's Jerry Reed? Who's Chet Atkins? All these different cats. So then I started assembling all that stuff. So I would say the kind of germination of my style was pretty much in place in high school. I mean, I was that hybrid had begun then. And then this jazz infusion and the funk thing, I was always into funky shit as well. And then rock, good old fashioned, Stone, Zeppelin, rock pile. I love me just, straight ahead rock and roll as well. So the germination of all that stuff began then, and I've just added to the soup over the years. But, if someone would have heard me play at the age of 19, they would definitely recognize, that it was me. Let's put it that way.
Right. And you do like a hybrid picking type thing, right?
Yes. But for years what I would do is I would stash the pick, I'd stash it between my first finger and middle finger, and then I would do all the chicken picking stuff with thumb and first finger.
Right.
And so I just kind of go back and forth like some kind of cheap Vegas prestidigitator of a sort. So I'd be like, gonna go back and forth. And then at some point I realized that, all my favorite guys from, Danny Gatton and Roy Buchanan and James Burton, they were all hybrid guys, and Albert Lee as well, and Ray Flack and all these cats. So I had to make the jump over it, and it was a pain in the ass, to be honest with it, to do what I was doing with the thumb and fingers and then do it with the pick and fingers. But I forced myself to do it. Right. Right around, I think that was probably my early 20s when I did that, and just forced myself to do it. And then I started getting into more of the, I started seeing guys like, my buddy Doyle Dykes and certainly Tommy Emmanuel and all the guys that did the kind of the Merle Travis, Chet Atkins school, all the thumb pick guys. I just thought, man, it would be really cool to be able to self-accompany, you know what I mean, and do some of that stuff that those guys are able to achieve with thumb and fingers. But I didn't want to go full force, ditch the pick, get a thumb pick. I just wasn't in the cards for me. So I started forcing myself to do more hybrid picking that was indicative of trying to do what those guys did with thumb pick. And in doing so, kind of came up with my own little ways of doing things that kind of became more of my thing as time went on. But I most of the time I'm doing pick and fingers, although I still do prefer just the fingers on the guitar quite a bit, especially when I'm doing bluesier stuff.
Right.
I'll use the fingers.
Very cool.
But there's a whole bunch of tones to be had down here. I mean, I find a palette of tones that I like listening to. It's an interesting thing. I mean, you'll find folks that are more into kind of the more reharmonizing thing and note choice and more chops of a shreddy nature, and that's all well and good, but for me it was more about the different emotive properties of vibrato and things with the left hand and the textural things you can get with the right hand, and combining that stuff together. Not that I don't like to indulge in, Speedy Gonzalez activities with alternate picking and so on and so forth. For me, the vast majority of it is more of the articulations and phrasing stuff that more of the really kind of guitaristic things of roots music that are brought to the fore by the different picking techniques and vibratos and so on and so forth. Right. Can you dig it?
Yeah.
Can we dig it?
Definitely. Awesome. So we're going to ask some of our typical questions that we like to
go right ahead.
We ask everybody. Do you have one of those Spinal Tap moments, where shit just went,
Well, it has to involve shit. As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to have a Spinal Tap moment, it has to be some kind of digestive complaint. Am I right?
Yeah, vomit. Yeah. Poo.
When you asked that question, or when I saw the the email where you said you might be asking a question of this nature.
Yeah.
Although there's been a lot of weird shit over the years, without a doubt. I remember one particular day where it was my band back in the day. We had a band called Koch and the Tone Controls, and it was at that point it was a 4-piece band, and it was a nucleus. It was a trio we had for years, and we added in this keyboard player, and he was older than us by a dozen years. And sometimes there were some generational, shall we say, friction. that he would do that would drive us freaking crazy. He was the nicest guy in the world and a great keyboard player, but there was just some idiosyncratic things. And one of the things is what we would do, we mostly did original tunes, but every now and again we'd do a cover tune, and we were big Little Feat fans. And so this guy would do a version of Dixie Chicken. And in the middle of Dixie Chicken, he'd go off on this massive keyboard montage of all these different songs. And sometimes he'd go into all these freaking show tunes that were kind of New Orleans based. And a lot of times we're just like, oh, for fuck's sake, when is this over? And so, but it was, he did his thing, and it was his feature, and people dug it. So we would just go, you go. So on this one particular occasion, we're down in Chicago, and we got to play this gig at a horse track during the day, Arlington Heights, I think, whatever. And it was one of these things where you would do, this agent booked it, where you'd play for people that didn't care, but you got paid pretty well, and then you'd couple it with a club gig in the evening. So we do this gig, and it rains torrentially. We got to bring our shit out of there and grab it, and then we got to go across town. Well, now it's rush hour in Chicago, in the middle of torrential rain, where it's like stop and go traffic. It's a freaking nightmare. We finally get to the club. We got to get some food in us quick. So I devour some greasy, heinous shit. And I just, and I got to restring my guitar. I'm doing stuff, getting ready to go. So finally it's time for us to take the stage. The opening band plays, does their shit. We go up there and we start playing. I start playing, and all of a sudden I was like, is this going to happen? And you're kind of thinking, can I buy myself some time? You know what I mean? There's games we play. We know it's coming. Like the few little tweaks that go on, the few gurgles, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna be an idling motorboat at some point this evening, but can it wait till the break? You're thinking, and then you start praying. You're like, God, please, for the love of you, please don't let me have a shart during the show. That would be the worst. So finally, it's getting to the point where I'm playing, and I'm like, no, it's on. It's on. So then thought comes to mind. Hey, let's do Dixie Chick. Dun, 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 dun. He goes off, and I get piano time comes. I bolt. And all I remember is going down in the dressing room, going into this squalid hellscape of a bathroom, sitting down and just, whatever I'm sitting, every show tune you can imagine. I'm just like, you go. There was one point in time where I was like, thank God that I'm going to hear every show tune known to man, because I'm going to evacuate my bowels RN. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's the story you were looking for, but that's the one I came up with. Fellas!
That was perfect.
That was great.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So Thomas, who is on the Top Shot on YouTube, says he used to go see you in a little club in Green Bay that was called Heroes.
Oh, I remember it well.
So, and he said you were pretty damn good. He used to go see you on a monthly basis, he said.
Well, yeah, my buddy Pat Conniff ran that place, and it was it was a small place in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yep.
This little stage, and it was the lowest paying gig we would ever take. But once Pat Conniff, the owner of the place, he died, bless his soul, a few years back, and he sold the bar long ago. But he would call me up, and it would always be the same message. This is your hero calling. I'd be like, oh, for the love of Christ, it's Pat. And I'm like, what's going on? And before I could I couldn't hang up the phone without booking a gig with this guy. And I'm like, and it was the lowest paying gig we would ever play, but I would do it because Pat would get me on the phone, and I could not hang up the phone without him saying, how's February 28th? And you're like, ah. Next thing you know, there we were in Green Bay. But I guess it turned out, because people seem to enjoy the jams as we go. But I haven't played in Green Bay in a long-ass time.
Wow.
So, and
Very cool.
Pat Conniff was the reason why I would play up there. He'd get me on the phone. And then,
Also in the Top Chat, we have Darth Slater. Okay. And he said you are one of the world's best guitarists, and he loves you because you're so well-versed. I did ask him if he was a dark Sith Lord, but he said no, he's a dark Sniff Lord. Oh my God, we have.
I like it.
So he said he was a sniff lord. So we have that. So
My
thank you,
children have
Darth,
made an
for
appearance.
coming in.
I like it. Oh, I like it. Sinister.
Yeah. Very cool.
Star Wars community represent.
Absolutely. Look at the little.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
I love it.
So, also,
You escaped.
how about the one that got away? That piece of equipment that you wish you had back. That you sold
well, I will
for
say
a
that
hooker, or
there was a
one
335 that I had that was stolen.
Oh.
And,
Oh.
well, what happened was I had a Telecaster as my main guitar, and it's not because when I initially growing up, it wasn't because all my idols played tellies that I wanted a telly. I really wanted a Strat because I was such a huge Hendrix fan and Mark Knopfler, and at that point Clapton was playing Strats, and I really wanted a Strat. But my guitar teacher at the time was selling a 68 Telecaster. What I really wanted was a neck pickup on a Fender guitar is what I really wanted. And it was available to me. I could afford it, so I bought it. So I had a Telly, and that was my main guitar. And so when I was a junior in high school, the band director got me a scholarship to go to this jazz camp for the summer. You went up there for like 10 days or whatever, and you know, went to a jazz camp. You played in a combo, you played in a big band, you got private lessons, this kind of shit. So I went up to beautiful Shell Lake, Wisconsin, and there was a buddy that I just hit it off with, this other guy, and he had a 335, and I had the Telly, and he always wanted to mess around with a 335, and I always wanted to mess around, or I always wanted to mess around with the 335, he always wanted to mess around with the Telly. So we kind of swapped guitars for a few days, and then it was the teacher up there at the time. You know, he wasn't a jazz snob. He was cool. And so he recognized at that point in time, you know, I had my blues thing together and, you know, with a little bit of this chicken picking stuff thrown in and so on and so forth. And I was into some jazz stuff, so I knew a sensibility of some swing stuff and whatnot. And he's like, man, you know, if you really wanted to smarten up your blues playing a bit with knowing how to play over changes, you should really check out this guy, Larry Carlton and Robin Ford, and they played 335. So he played me some Larry Carlton and some Robin Ford. I'm like, that sounds unbelievable. So next thing you know, I wanted a 335. So when I got home from this jazz camp, I was actually working in a factory that summer. My dad was an attorney, and one of his clients had a company called Production Plastics. So my dad got me a job working in a plastics factory. I was like, well, that might explain a few things of why.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this we've got to the root cause.
I was exposed to various, you know, poisons. But anyway, so I worked there all summer and I made pretty good dough. So I saved up my dough to buy a 335. So it was a 1983 blonde dot neck 335.
Yeah.
And I bought that, and it was fabulous. And I played that guitar as my main guitar for years, all through college. And I got a gig up in Minneapolis my senior year or junior year in college. Everyone from the music department of beautiful University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, we got summer gigs playing in the band at a place called Valley Fair, south of Minneapolis. So I played in a trio that was backing up these three gals, and we did a combination of a Whitney Houston / country medley. And so I went up there and we played that during the day, and then at night we could do whatever we wanted. So I was gigging and causing trouble, and mostly causing trouble. But this particular night I had a gig, and I went out to this gig and played with a band called Lamont Cranston, which was a big blues band up in Minneapolis. And they heard me playing in a music store and invited me to cover this night. So I took at that time I had an old Music Man RD112 amp with a frickin' E120 JBL in it. And I would plug straight into that son of a bitch with that 335. It sounded glorious. Yeah. Mostly a neck pickup guy at that point in time. It just, because I wanted that sound. It was kind of, I was going after the Larry Carlton / Dickie Betts, Danny Toller tone of that era, which was the neck pickup on a Les Paul or on a 335. It sounded glorious. So played the gig, and then a buddy of mine's band was in town from Milwaukee playing at this other club. So me and my girlfriend at the time, now my lovely wife, bless her, we went to that club as well, and then we invited them all over back to our apartment for a party. So we go back to my apartment, we're partying. I leave my shit in the car for whatever reason. I figure I'm in the suburbs of Minneapolis. Fuck it, I'm going to leave my stuff in the car. Leave the stuff in the car. Go back in my apartment. We party all night long. I wake up the next morning, and this is where it gets interesting. So I had this college girlfriend that we had not seen each other in a few months because I'm away, and figured it was time to finally officially end it. So I dumped her on the phone that morning, right? And I'll never forget it. She's like, 3 years. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but, you know, it's just the time is right. And so I dumped her on the phone. And everyone's like, you asshole. After 3 years, you dumped her on the phone. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to drive 6 hours in the car and dump her and then drive 6 hours back. But, you know, you're a kid. You're an idiot. Anyway, karmic retribution. I hang up the phone. I go out to my car, the mighty Chevy Citation, and the door is open. And I look, and the guitar and the amp are gone. But the anvil case with the keyboard that's owned by the guy I'm rooming with is still there. So my amp and my guitar got stolen. And that was that. So that was a bummer. And I did get another, because back then I was still on my dad's homeowner's insurance. So we did get another 335, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah,
Right.
It wasn't the same guitar. So that was the one that I kind of pined for, because I just have, it was so many memories of those crucial years of development was on that guitar. But
Absolutely.
that's the one.
That's
And
the
that
one.
telly, to be honest, I sold the telly. I sold it to this guy who I went to high school with. And this was after high school. I sold it to him, and he carved it out to put humbuckers in it. And I was so pissed. I'm like, you don't do that. So he carved it out to put humbuckers in it, and I don't know where that guitar is. But it was like a 68 telly. So those are the two guitars that I wished I would have been able to keep.
Wow.
Are you sorry you asked? All these stories are so long. I'm a long-winded son of a bitch.
Great.
this is
fantastic.
great. This is
Yeah. Darth Slater is asking, is that a real Leslie behind you?
It is. That Toby leaves his Leslie here, so that he's got good. You know, organ guys that are organ guys, they've got tons of Leslies and organs, and so he leaves one down here, and he's got a preamp for it. I could plug it in, but I just haven't had a chance to do it, so I haven't done it.
And I gotta say, because we don't get many compliments, Thomas, who we don't know, thinks we have a good channel.
Yeah.
So now
yeah.
we have 3 subscribers. That's great. I don't know if he's even subscribed, but
Woo!
that's great.
Well, we can look forward to one day when you do plug in the Leslie and go, oh, this is it.
It's gonna happen. I've been having people been, when are you gonna plug into the Leslie? And I always just forget. But it's not mic'd up. That's the problem. So I'm in the middle of a live stream, and people are like, "Hey, can you plug in the Leslie?" I'm like, "Yeah, but then I have to mic it up." And yeah. So maybe one of the Instagram videos I'll do on it, and then
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh my God, oh,
Very cool.
sweet Leslie."
Leslie.
Oh man. So what else do we have for our standard questions?
What's new and
Oh,
driving
yeah.
you crazy and you love?
Yeah.
Oh, you were
what's
asking
the
if I ever get any guitars from Wildwood.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, years ago, about 5 years ago now, I bought a 53 Telly that was at Wildwood. It was a guy had passed away, and his brother was in charge of kind of getting rid of the guitars for the wife. And I ended up getting it. It was, you know, it's a spray over, but it's pretty much original. But I didn't have to, because it was more of a player's piece. I didn't have to actually harvest a kidney. But I did sell a bunch of stuff, and two of the things I sold were some custom shop Les Pauls that I had bought from Wildwood. I had a Greg Martin Collector's Choice number 15,
Oh,
which I
that's
loved.
a pretty guitar. Yeah.
And then I had a Wildwood Spec 59 with a really nice burst on it, and I got a gloss one. It was a beautiful guitar. And I used it on a bunch of stuff. But I ended up getting rid of both of those guitars, figuring, well, I can always get more, you know. But then I didn't. I didn't end up getting another Les Paul until just before the new year. I was searching around on the Wildwood site. And every time I'd been going out there since then, you know, I'd play the Tom Murphy aged and painted Wildwood specs, you know, because Wildwood does the tweaks where they, you know, all their stuff is tweaked out to the nines, and you know, making sure that the plastic's right, and the, you know, they made sure they had the long tenons and all that shit that now that Gibson does, because Wildwood really had done it first,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases. So anyways, the Wildwood Spec Les Paul is a thing of drool worthiness. But the Tom Murphy aged and painted ones I was looking at, and like every time I played one I really liked, I'm like, man, this is the shit. And then I'd look, my price on it was like $7,000. I'm like, I'm not dropping $7,000 on this guitar. I said, forget it. And not that it wasn't worth it, it's just that I just was not in the mood of saying, oh yeah, here's a guitar that I'll play every once in a while, and I'm going to drop that much coin on it. So I didn't do it. So time went on. Wyatt would start sending me guitars to do these videos, and I'd be playing things like every time one arrives, I'm like, should I get this? Should I get this? No, I got to send it back. I was really tempted by the 70th anniversary broadcasters, the custom shop ones,
Yeah.
with the blend switch. Oh my God, those are nice. But I was strong, fellas. I was strong. But then at night I'd be going to bed, and I'll just go on the Wildwood site, which is dangerous. It's a dangerous. You go on the new arrivals page. Ooh. Oh, and then I'll go on all custom shop Les Pauls. And I saw this one, which was a 58, had a little bit more red in the burst than usual, because usually that's lemon or, they all got the brown ones. And so this one had a little bit of red, not tomato soupy, just a nice little red, not a whole lot of bursteroony. I like a little bit of burst, but not, too over the top. And plus the weight was right. I'm like, shit, this could be my boy. So I said, from Steve from Wauwatosa, I was like, hey, in the next shipment of guitars, can you send me this one? I'll do videos on it. I'll do a live stream. And if I dig it, I'll buy it. What do you think? He's like, sure. So he sent it, and I had to have it. So that's this morsel right here.
Oh. We saw you playing that. Oh.
Yeah. So it's not, not crazy top, but nice.
Yeah.
But just the nice red. And plus, I don't know, I like the back being this.
Wow, that's dark.
You know what I mean? It's got that dark woody glory, and you look down, at that nag. And plus, the 58s have got a little bit more girth to them.
The 50, I have one. The neck is a beautiful thing. It's just you could dig into it. I used it tonight, actually. Yes. I have a darker one.
So I fell victim. So that's been my most recent acquisition.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful. So I dig that, but most of like when I'm gigging, usually, I use my Reverend stuff just because they're the performance thing I need. Is they got everything covered. You know what I mean?
Right.
And lately I've been using the P91, and goddamn, that thing sounds good. But I do have my old Strat that I've had forever. I ordered this from the custom shop in 1991.
Ooh.
Because a buddy of mine had an old 56 Strat, and I would play that guitar at gigs and stuff, and I always wanted it, but I couldn't afford it, and he wouldn't have sold it anyway. But it had this big ass neck on it. So I ordered a guitar in 91. I was working at a music store here in Milwaukee called Casio Music, and they were a Fender dealer. And I called up old John Grunder from Fender, and I said, I want an ash body, I want a maple neck, I want a big ass neck on it. A buddy of mine has a 56 Strat, it's got a huge neck. He's like, we'll do a November 56 neck. It's a fat V. I'm like, great. Do a flatter radius, jumbo frets, locking tuners, and I wanted the mother of toilet seat pickguard, and I wanted the gold hardware. And so that's what I got. But then years went by, and I was messing around with different pickups on it. And then I veered away from Strats and just started playing more tellies. And but then I put these Fishman pickups in here because all 5 positions of the toggle switch sound good. For so many times, you're messing around with the Strat, and it's like, oh, the neck pickup sounds good, and the 2's a little dark, and the bridge pickup's a little weak. Should I bring them on? It's always this freaking Strats make you a psychopath. You're always thinking in your mind, well, I'd like to use the whammy bar in the first part of the song, but I know if I do that arpeggiated thing towards the end of the song with the open strings is going to sound like shit because I'm going to pull a little bit out of tune, this fucking piece of shit. So and it's always this dialogue, the Strat monologues going on in your cranium. So what's made it fun for me to play a Strat again is that I got the Fishman pickups and I got the 2 voices, so if I want a little bit more heat, and I don't lose any highs when I turn down the volume. So I've been using this guitar a lot more, and I've got my own little trick bag of whammy skullduggery that I worked on over, because the Strat was my main gigging guitar for probably a dozen years. So it's kind of fun to play a Strat again in my show. So been kind of juggling between my Gristle Master with the regular Telly pickups, the new Gristle Master with the P90s and Mr. Wiggles on it, as I like to call him everywhere, Mr. Wiggles. and then I've been using the Strat. I have been using a 335 as well. I've got a 63 50th anniversary 335 that I use, and that has the Fluence pickups in there as well, which I really, really like. Because I find with those pickups, I can go between a 335, the Tally, the P91, and the Strat, and they sound like they're supposed to sound, but I don't have to EQ the amp. They all sound good. And plus they always have that thing where if I turn down the volume, I don't lose any highs, a treble bleed thing, which comes with the way that those pickups are made. That's just an added feature. But I would always do that to my guitars anyways, because I always like it when you turn down the guitar, it just gets less loud. Crazy me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's less loud. Wow. Why?
It's just, I don't have to get all dark and hideous sounding down here. I don't know. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So we get to the we get to the fun part, and it can always be a rant, but on a good side. So we like to go into the fuck you section, which is the biggest compliment. So us three are from New York, so that's the biggest compliment you give somebody is fuck you. You're so goddamn.
Fuck that guy. You know? Fuck you.
Yeah. That was the original name of the channel, but somehow YouTube didn't like it, so we had to go with Musings, Rants, and Guitars rather than fuck that guy. So, who that you see or watch or whatever that actually is so good to you, almost frustrates you, like, wow, how is that even possible? Who's that guy?
Well, there are. I mean, Derek Trucks really used to bug the shit out of me, and and I've worked on it enough where now it's not so much of fuck you. At least I'm to the point. At first, I would just annoy the shit out of me, like, how is this intonation so good? How is this possible? There's got to be a way, because to my mind is that there's got to be a way to do this shit, right? And so he was someone, and still, I mean, even now and again, I hear, but now it doesn't. At least I've gotten to the point now where I've worked on it to the point where it's not so much of a kick to the nutsack. Now,
right?
Because you used to hear him do this stuff, like, no, this can't happen, and so now it's at least not as painful. I someone who I just was always so inspired by when I would see his stuff online was that Mateus Asado. It would just always hit me in the feels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the stuff. I mean, because it wasn't just physical wankage. It was just such a beautiful sense of tone and harmony, and the tunes were cool, and there would always be something in those videos you're like, whoa. As I said, it would just be something to just kind of, and I was so bummed out when I found out he was stepping away from. I mean, I understand it. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard about it, but he deleted his account, and
he's walked away for a little bit, right?
And which is unfortunate, but I understand it. I mean, the internet can be crushing to the soul, but if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't have been able to find out about him and enjoy his glorious artistry. But
right.
He's one of those guys where it's just, I see them and it's like, man, that's just so damn good. Tommy Emmanuel is one of those guys too. I mean, he's just, a freak. I remember the first time I saw him play, it was like Fender had us be a part of my trio. This back in like 1996-ish, maybe, something around there. And so Fender was trying to help my career along and get me exposure and do all kinds of stuff. So we played at this show, the Wild Horse Saloon in Nashville, during the NAMM show. And Fender would rent out that, place, and people would come from the NAMM show, and then there was a VIP section was up on the top. And on the show it was Tommy Emmanuel, our band, the Helicasters, like Noki Edwards and Steve Warner, something like that. There were two different shows we played, but I remember Tommy Emmanuel started the show. So, and we got to play after him. So I'm sitting backstage, and they have these monitors, and I'm watching Tommy Emmanuel play. And at that time, I was a newbie to the whole Chet thing and to the cascading harmonics and all that kind of stuff, which I've worked on since then. So it's not so much like, oh my God, what is it? But back then, I had no freaking clue. And he's doing like a Beatles tune with cascading harmonics. I'm going, what the fuck? And as he's playing, he like gets up and does like a little sarcastic dance step and then sits back down again. I'm like, and then I'm looking, and then as I'm watching the screen, Jerry Donahue's to my left and John Jorgensen's to my right with a similar look of astonishment on their face. I'm like, and then we had to go out and do our thing. But luckily, you just do your thing, and that's all you can do, and
Right.
and it went just fine. But it was one of those moments where I was like, son of a bitch. And so he's an astonishing musician. So I mean, and there's others that come to mind, but I heard a Scott Henderson thing the other day. I was just like, God damn it. Because he's someone that it's interesting because he has the jazz sensibility and this advanced sense of harmony, but his blues chops are fantastic.
Off the charts, man. They're off the charts. It's just,
and that's a weird thing because there's so many guys that work on the jazz thing and say, oh yeah, I play some blues stuff too, and but no, it's like, no, he's got the phrasing and shit in spades, and has this sense of harmony and chop execution that is freaking frightening. And I was, because as I said, since I got the subscription to iTunes, I'm listening to a bunch of stuff I haven't listened to in ever. And there's a trio thing with Jeff Berlin, Scott Henderson, and Dennis Chambers, and they do Actual Proof, which is a song that's just a pain in the ass to play. You ever play that song, Actual Proof?
No.
It's just a counterintuitive jazz. It's funky, but the changes are fucked. And you're just when you're like getting one in, like, oh God, I gotta go over here, and fuck. And of course, Scott Henderson plays it and just annihilates chorus after chorus after chorus. And then I said, fuck you, is what I said to Scott Henderson at that moment. I was like, Scott Henderson, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I right?
I think you're right.
By the way, Darth Slater says "fuck you" because that's what you do to him.
Well, thank
He
you.
didn't say that, but he says that you're that guy to him.
So bless him.
Dude,
Yeah.
Greg, you are that guy. Holy crap, man! It brings us such great joy to actually know. When you come up and pop up on my phone saying you're going live, I immediately go and listen to it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And other people do that, and I don't, and I ignore them. My children, the rest of my family.
Me,
But no,
I
when
call him, he doesn't answer.
he doesn't. The only other it's funny. Andy does it right every once in a while, and it's really good because normally for some reason he always pops on whenever I'm already warmed up and I can try and keep up with him. You start, I get on and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Do you go out there and kill your own chickens and stuff first thing in the morning and then come in and play?
Well,
by the time you start, I'm like,
I usually do a little thing in the morning if I can. But earlier on in COVID, when I had both of my daughters home, there was a family meeting. And It was discussed at the family meeting that there would be no noise before 10:30 in the morning. So then I couldn't do my little pre-walk noodles. But then the gals went away. One went up to college and one got her own place. So then I was like, yeah, I want to do it. So then I started doing some morning stuff again. But we shall see. But no, my other stuff, the thing I do for Wildwood is every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Central. And the two things I do for Fishman are Mondays and Fridays at 4 p.m. Central Time. But the other stuff I do is just kind of rando that might appear and on Instagram.
Like
and
those.
Usually,
like
the Instagram thing will go to, I'll post that goes on Facebook, and I might share it on the other Facebook things. I might put it on Twitter. Sometimes there's exclusive stuff that's just for Twitter. Sometimes the longer version goes on YouTube, depending. I'm not one of these guys that I don't actually, get money from. I'm not. My income isn't really predicated on making money off of the revenue streams from YouTube in terms of views and ads and all that kind of stuff. It's from all these different things where people are buying stuff as a result of seeing these various videos and whatnot. But in a way that's very liberating, because I just post when I want to. Really, other than the paid streams, of course, that I do for Fishman and for Wildwood. But all the other stuff I do is just kind of rando. That's why I don't do, any kind of more controversial stuff like, why does this person suck? Let's discuss why, this person has ass hand and I don't. Or let's discuss why this person's tone sounds like, cheeks flapping that haven't been showered in weeks. You know what I mean? I don't get into any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, if that's the way you like to roll. But it's, I just kind of, why did I just say that last thing? I think I did, but.
You snuck another rant in.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. You got double ranted. That was really good. I like that one.
That was so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time I mess up, I say I'm suffering from ass hand. People are like, what do you mean by that? I think it's pretty obvious. I'm playing something I think sucks, so therefore I'm suffering from ass hand. I'm not like actually, doing anything weird with the hand.
It's just not doing anything that's worthwhile.
Pretty simple.
Ass
hand.
Oh man. Now, Thomas, before we sign off, Thomas wanted to say he was ready to burn all of his stuff when he heard Greg. He said, "I thought he's like a freak." So freaks happen. So.
Well, I appreciate the comment, but you know what? As I said, I don't have like hobbies and shit. It's not like I'm going out snowmobiling or in a dart league, bowling, hunting. I don't do shit. I play guitar and hang out with my pals and eat and reproduce. I got 4 kids, and then there's everything surrounding that responsibility.
Well done on all counts.
Yeah. Well, a person's got to do what you got to do, by God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
Well,
Greg, I want to say thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
It's
yes.
been,
we've had some fun. Have we had fun?
Absolutely. And that's why we do this, folks. So, as we wrap things up, we do want to hawk we are giving away this lovely limited edition Love Pedal Redhead from my collection. It has Velcro.
Nice.
Free.
It ain't going anywhere.
Little instructions on what I think it should sound like.
And
like
I would never use those.
I would. I'm sorry. What was that? What was that, Joey? I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Exactly the settings I would use.
I found, God, when I was going through the stuff, I found the actual Xerox copy of the instructions from Mr. Love Pedal.
Yeah,
it's really a great pedal, but
we're doing a giveaway for it.
We're doing a giveaway. Sign up, subscribe, click like, do those things.
And merch.
Buy the merch. Merch. We love to sell. Greg, go to follow him. He is great.
Everywhere.
As I said, he wakes me up in the morning. I make coffee. He's already had coffee. We start the day together. He does some super duper looper and gets us going in the morning. And your work with Wildwood, just your personality brings joy musically to me. And Lenny is Joey. So
absolutely.
thank you.
If you don't mind, could you tell people that may be finding out about you for the first time where they can find out everything about what's going on with you and your music?
Well, certainly the website, which is just Greg Koch, GregKoch.com. All my stuff is on there. The new record's coming out next month with my trio. I have a trio with my son on drums.
Yep.
And a great B3 player, Toby Lee Marshall, Koch Marshall Trio, as the case may be. And so the website's really the place, but also I'm very active on Instagram at Greg Koch Music. My Twitter handle is at Mansquatch.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was like, is this right?
Yeah, a guy had a tune called the Mansquatch Chronicles back in the day, and people used to call me Mansquatch. And so I thought, well, that's a good Twitter handle. It was not a good idea. Would have been much better to be like, at Greg Koch or something like that. But what are you going to do? Yeah. Sometimes marketing eludes me. And then on Facebook, it's just Greg Koch Music, and you can find me, and I stay pretty active on all of those formats.
Absolutely.
And YouTube is also Greg Koch Music.
Yes. Yep.
Great.
That's where I follow you everywhere. All right. So we're going to say goodnight. Greg, hang on. We're not going to say one thing before we
Thank
go.
you, sir. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having
Absolutely.
me.
Very informative.
Hope everybody laughed as much as we did. It was a great joy to have you on, man.
Oh, thank you, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
So goodbye to the audience.
Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks for
everybody.
tuning in.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next week.